All set? A very warm and distinguished good morning to our esteemed dignitaries, faculty members, invited guests, and the bright students gathered here in the prestigious auditorium of Sri Ram College of Commerce. So I welcome you to the 19th lecture of Kartvyam series, a series which was discussed in Parliament and recognized by the Government of India. So to start today's program, I would like to welcome the dignitaries to please begin with the lighting of the lamp. So, now I request everyone to stand for the University Kulgeet.
जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञान का लोक अनुपम
श्रेष्ठ सुंदर दिव्य दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय विहंगम
जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञान का लोक अनुपम सकल वसुधा निज कुटुंब की भावना संस्कृति सनातन आधुनिक शिक्षा पुरातन ज्ञान धाराओं का संगम
देश की स्वाधीनता हित भूमिका शतकोटि वंदन
निष्ठा धृति सत्यम के मंगल दिव्य भावों का समागम
जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञान का आलोक अनुपम
भव्य महाविद्यालयों के परिसरों से चिर सुशोभित श्रेष्ठ गुरुजन कर रहे नित्य छात्र और छात्राएं दीक्षित
सदचरित्राचार पावन साधना संकल्प संयम
नवल वैश्विक चेतना नव क्रांति संस्कारों का उद्गम जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञान का लोक अनुपम
श्रेष्ठ सुंदर दिव्य दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय विहंगम
जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञान का लोक अनुपम
ज्ञान का आलोक अनुपम
ज्ञान का लोक अनुपम
ज्ञान का आलोक अनुपम
Thank you so much. It is said that when Kumbhakarna died, sleep was widowed. And since then, she spends her time at lectures. However, the lectures of Kartvyam have been so interesting that we have been a very bad company for sleep. So, to set the tone for today, I would like to welcome our professor in charge, Madam Gunjan Gupta, to please deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Shantanu. A very good morning to all of you. It is a profound honor and privilege to welcome you to the 19th lecture of Kartvyam series organized by Campus Law Center, Faculty of Law, University of Delhi. And as we continue our celebration of 75 years of Indian Constitution, today's gathering marks a very special moment in the journey. We are deeply honored to welcome a jurist whose life and work have left an indelible print on the legal and moral fabric of a nation. Mr. Harish Salve, King's Counsel and Senior Advocate. A huge round of applause for him. Today's gathering marks a very special moment in that journey. We are deeply honored to welcome jurists whose life and work have left an indelible imprint on the legal and moral fabric. Mr. Salve is among the most distinguished legal minds of our times, a figure who has redefined the practice of law through intellect, integrity, and purpose. Trained in the chambers of the legends, such as Nani Palkhiwala, he rose to become one of India's youngest solicitors general, representing the government of India with remarkable distinction. Over the decades, Mr. Salve has appeared in some of the most defining constitutional and corporate cases before the Supreme Court. From shaping environmental jurisprudence in the Oleum, gas leak, and Taj trapezium matters, as handling landmark disputes on taxation, telecom, and constitutional interpretation. His advocacy, however, transcends mere legal argument. The world took notice when he represented India before the International Court of Justice in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case, charging just ₹1, a gesture that turned the professional excellence into an act of patriotic duty. In recognition of his stature, he has been appointed as King's Counsel in the United Kingdom, a rare distinction that reflects not just expertise, but global respect. His counsel is sought across jurisdictions, yet his voice always carries unmistakable conviction of Indian constitutional values. Now, what makes Mr. Salve's journey truly extraordinary is his humility. His belief that law is a long life discipline. He once said, "You are never a master of law. You are always a student of law." In those words lies the true spirit of Kartvyam itself. That learning is endless, that duty grows with the understanding, and that the practice of law is at its heart and an act of service. At the helm of this journey stands with us none other than Professor Dr. Alka Chawla, the patron of Kartvyam, whose scholarly guidance and unwavering vision have shaped this initiative into one of the profound intellectual and ethical depth. Her leadership embodies the balance of discipline and imagination that sustains both institutions and ideas. A huge round of applause for her. In line equally important and central to this endeavor is Dr. Seema Singh. The program director of Kartvyam, whose tireless dedication, clarity, creative energy continue to give life and rhythm to every lecture in this series. Her commitment ensures that Kartvyam remains a space of rigorous inquiry and genuine inspirations. So I once again thank you, Dr. Seema, for organizing. And you all know at the 11th hour, we were overburdened with people who wanted to join this Kartvyam, and we had to change the venue from Ramjas to Sri Ram College of Commerce. Thank you, Seema. As we gather today, let us not only celebrate his achievements, but also reflect on what they represent. The unwavering faith that justice, intellect, and compassion together form the truest defense of a constitution. I, Professor Gunjan Gupta, Professor in charge of Campus Law Center, University of Delhi, and the Kartvyam team, I extend a most respectful and heartfelt welcome to Mr. Harish Salve, a jurist whose life continues to remain with us as what a law is, what is guided by duty, becomes a force for both truth and transformation. I really thank you all for joining here, and I really once again welcome you all to this 19th lecture of Kartvyam. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that welcome address. Now, I would like to call our patron to felicitate our chief guest. Now it is time to hear the patron, Professor Dr. Alka Chawla. I would like to say some lines for ma'am. With wisdom deep and purpose pure, she builds a legacy to endure. Her guidance makes our path secure. Let's hear our patron, Professor Dr. Alka Chawla.
Thank you, Shantanu. Good morning to all the dignitaries on the dais, off the dais. And sir, there are around 20 universities associated with us online. They're all a part of this program. Our erudite faculty from across the colleges are here. Dear students, ladies and gentlemen. And sorry, I always forget, our knowledge partner, Knowledge Collective. There are also, so many of them are sitting here to be a part of this program. We have all collected here basically to celebrate 75 years of our constitution in the name of Kartvyam, which depicts duty, dharma, not the religious dharma that I'm talking about. It is related to duty and aisa karma, jisse samaj aur rashtra ki seva kar sake. You know, there are 3 days we are having, I hope, I don't know how many of you know, where the Arya Samaj congregation is taking place, and you will find out that whenever they are praying, whenever a havan is done, at the end, hamesha kaha jata hai, rashtra ki seva pehla dharma hai, pehla kartavya hai, and that is why we are celebrating the 75 years of constitution. Today, as you've already heard, is the 19th lecture in the series of lecture of Kartvyam. We have made a history in University of Delhi. Sir, I must tell you that we've made a world record by having longest series in the university. Not only this, our parliament, when it was in session, it discussed the entire program and also the clarion call that we have made for basically the ethos of our country, looking at how the democracy, the constitutional democracy, has to be amalgamated with the Indian tradition. And what is the spirit behind our constitution? And the credit for this goes to Dr. Seema and to Dr. Dr. Shantanu, that's our student here. I think both of them need a big applause. Seema is okay. She's working. Uska kartavya hai. But usse badkar, jo student who already passed from Campus Law Center and still they are associated with this great cause is Shantanu and his team. There are lots of students sitting here. I'm sorry I'm not taking your names. But I think they need a bigger applause than Seema does. I'm sorry, Seema. We all have not stopped by creating History for Longest series, but we've also worked on a magazine where ideas from different walks of life have culminated. Dr. Seema, along with Vinayak khade ho jao, chup ke baithe ho. Please look behind. They have edited a book on Bharatiya jurisprudence, and I would like to bring to the notice of Mr. Harish Salve and all sitting here that Delhi Law Faculty has been the first one to introduce Bharatiya jurisprudence as a part of syllabus along with the Western jurisprudence. And most of the universities are getting inspired by this and they're taking our syllabus. Many people who've contributed towards the making of syllabus. We are standing here, but they're all behind the curtains right in front of me. Sir, please. Rose sir, Jose sir, खड़े हो जाइए, please. ये हैं और बहुत से लोग हैं जिन्होंने यहाँ पर नहीं हैं, but they are the ones because when we had to teach, we had no clue what is to be done. So these are the people who taught us, and in return, we are teaching our students. So a big thank you to all of them who are becoming a part of this. And I think we all should feel very, very proud to be a part of this revival movement. You and all together, we are going to very soon, I think, get out of the colonial mindset, the colonial values, and look at what India stands for. People say that fundamental duties, they were added to the Constitution by 42nd Amendment in 1976. But the Indian tradition has always talked about it. The concept of human rights has always been a part of our culture. The Western culture may say it is freedom from the state, basically, that we talk about when we are talking even about the fundamental rights and fundamental duties. But I must emphasize that if we look at our own culture, we find that it is both the intrinsic responsibility of the state and the individuals to uphold the dignity and well-being of the society. In our country, adhikar hum kam mangte hain. The biggest value is when we talk about sacrifice, when we talk about balidan, when we talk about kartavya and duty. दूसरों के उद्धार के लिए ड्यूटी करना सबसे बड़ी वैल्यू है. क्यों? क्योंकि हमारा बेसिकली हम किस चीज़ के बारे में बात करते हैं? हम कहते हैं वासुदेव कुटुंबकम. वी आर अ फैमिली. वी आर ऑल वर्किंग टुवर्ड्स सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिना, सर्वे सन्तु निरामय. ये क्या है? They are all part of the fundamental duties, directive principles, and fundamental rights that we talk about. These are the values that are hierarchically placed much above claim, अधिकार, जिसके बारे में आज सबसे पहले बात हो रही है. So we would want, we always say धर्म, अगर आप गीता पढ़ो तो लिखा गया है, what is fire का धर्म क्या है? जलना. सूरज का धर्म क्या है? जगमगाना. हम सबका धर्म क्या है? We are all humans. At least work for the humankind and the environment around us. And I would say that we all take a pledge today that we will work for the unity of our nation, अपने राष्ट्र की unity के लिए, goals of equality, freedom, fraternity. And then clamor of rights will always get diminished. Duties होंगी तो rights की बात करने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं है, क्योंकि right के बारे में हम बात करेंगे ही नहीं. With this hope that we will take a pledge today, and blessings to all, because I think I'm the oldest here, and a pledge that we will perform our kartavya and duty. Jai Hind, Bharat Mata ki Jai. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, ma'am, for that eloquent, energetic, and enthralling speech. Now, I would like to call Mr. Prashant, the publisher of our book, which is scheduled to be launched today, to felicitate our chief guest. Now we move to a special part of our ceremony. It gives me immense pleasure to announce the release of the latest issue of Kartvyam magazine, which has been prepared by our team led by Palak Agrawal, who is also there. So I would like to invite Palak and our editorial team to please come on stage. So I would just share some words about our Kartvyam magazine. The Kartvyam magazine is a foundational step toward creating Kartvyam jurisprudence, where not only lawmakers but people from different walks of life come together and share their ideas for Kartvyam. It is an open space for dialogue and discourse in the spirit of these values. We are launching the Kartvyam magazine today as part of this Kartvyam lecture series. Now we move forward to the launching of the book on Indian jurisprudence, which we are confident is going to be the new dawn as to how we look the jurisprudence today. So I would like to request all the guests to please, the co-editor, Mr. Vinayak Sharma, I please request you to please come on stage. So now the last launching exercise. Sorry, sir, we couldn't have arranged a better ambassador than you. That's why we are doing all the launching with you. So now I would like to request to please the team to please come with the t-shirts which are being prepared for the volunteers and the people who are interested in Kartvyam to be launched today. Now I would like to call the program director, the editor of the book, the guiding force, Dr. Seema Singh ma'am, and for her I have few lines. She sparks ideas bright and new, turns thought to action, dreams to view, our guiding force, steadfast and true. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and truly I am feeling very much delighted and blessed both that today I am releasing my third book, which is very important, and important in this context that we have chosen a very unique topic, that is Bharatiya jurisprudence. So I just wanted to brief you that why basically I decided to work on this topic, Bharatiya jurisprudence, redefining legal philosophy. Actually, for a long time, whenever I am going to complete my 18 years almost in teaching. So as a teacher, I always felt that something is missing in my legal understanding, to be very honest. But what is that? So there's a lots of legislation, legal positivism, but one thing that is very much important, and that is due process of law. But what is exactly due process of law? So that basically, encouraged me to find out the source of due process of law, and that is obviously natural law. But what is natural law? So that was the second question. I have several questions, and I was very much inspired from the motto of the Supreme Court, which says, Yato dharmas tato jaya. But again, next question, what is the meaning of dharma? And how to identify law of the nature? So most of the time, nature is in front of us. So many things are in front of us, but we are not able to see that. I was able to understand certain things, but some certain was missing. And by God's grace, I met Professor Jose Varghese. So Jose Varghese sir is a person who developed that kind of clarity which was required to me to understand the natural law. And sir, I admit कि पुरुष सूक्ता को यदि मैंने समझा है, that is only and only because of Professor Varghese. And that encouraged me to work on this topic, on this issue, Bharatiya jurisprudence. There are lots of contributors in this book. There are 15 chapters. And I am extremely thankful to all the contributors who helped me in bringing out this book. And my very big thanks to Vinayak Sharma, because Vinayak constantly pushed me. I am a person many times who are always occupied in so many things, but वो मुझे हमेशा pressure करता रहता था, मैडम आपको ये करना है. So thank you Vinayak, and I am also very much thankful to NHRC chairperson and former Supreme Court judge, Justice Rama Subramaniam ji, who has written the foreword of this book. I am extremely thankful to Harish Salve sir. साल्वे सर को मैंने एक बार रिक्वेस्ट किया कि सर प्लीज़ आप मेरी किताब का प्रीफेस लिखिए, एंड आई कंसीडर माई सेल्फ एज अ वेरी ब्लेस्ड पर्सन कि उन्होंने इस किताब का प्रीफेस लिखा.
और दूसरी बड़ी बात ये है कि आज उन्हीं के शुभ हाथों से इस किताब का लॉन्च हुआ है। मोहन जी मेरे सामने बैठे हुए हैं। मोहन जी has also played a very instrumental role. He is a brilliant scholar and he is always with me. चाहे वो भारतीय jurisprudence का स्टडी मटेरियल डेवलप करना हो या फिर ये किताब, he is always there as my elder brother and he is still here. So a big thanks to you, मोहन जी। लेकिन लास्ट में बिना ज़्यादा समय लिए हुए मैं आप सबसे एक बात कहना चाहती हूँ। मैं अपनी ये किताब समर्पित करती हूँ उन ऋषियों को जिनके काम को हम एक्नॉलेज ही नहीं करते, क्योंकि हमें पता ही नहीं कि उन्होंने किया क्या है। मुझे भी नहीं पता था कुछ सालों पहले तक, पर उनका जो एक्सटेंसिव वर्क है और जिस तरीके से उन्होंने लीगल फिलॉसफीज़ को प्रेजेंट किया, जो कि साइंटिफिक हैं, जो कि सस्टेनेबल हैं, जो कि टाइम टेस्टेड हैं, मेरा और विनायक का और जितने भी कंट्रीब्यूटर्स हैं, हम सब का जो कलेक्टिव वर्क है वो समर्पित है हमारे उन गुरुओं को, हमारे उन ऋषियों को, और हमारी तरफ से हमारा ये एक छोटा सा प्रयास है उनके काम को सामने लाने का, ताकि हम आप सबको इसके बारे में अवेयर कर सकें कि जो काम उन्होंने किया है वो कितना वैल्यूएबल है और उसको ना जान करके हम अपना कितना बड़ा नुकसान कर रहे हैं। तो मेरी आप सबसे ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि एक बार आप इस किताब को पढ़िए, और मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि जब आप इस किताब को पढ़ेंगे तब शायद आपको इस बात की इम्पोर्टेंस भी समझ में आएगी कि हमारे लिए भारतीय जुरिस्प्रूडेंस को, सिर्फ हमारे लिए नहीं, आई विल से फॉर द एंटायर वर्ल्ड, इफ़ वी वांट टू क्रिएट अ सस्टेनेबल वर्ल्ड, if we want to create a world where everybody is respected, if we want to create a world where rights of the nation and rights of the nature are important, then in that circumstances we must understand what Bharatiya jurisprudence says. So my book is dedicated to the Almighty and to all the rishis, all my elders, all my gurus and my mother. And I'm extremely thankful to all of you, and the book will remain available for you, and thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Whenever a child played good cricket, people used to say, you will become Sachin Tendulkar or nowadays Virat Kohli. Likewise, when it is about legal profession, whenever potential is being seen any law student, people say, you will become Harish Salve. So, I would like to call our chief guest, the litigation star, whose reach is global and far, and with whom, in courts, nobody dares to spar. Welcome, sir.
Seema ji, Professor Chawla, Professor Gupta, and my young friends. I am surprised that Seema ji said she felt obliged and happy when I agreed to come here. Little does she realize this is an opportunity I wouldn't miss for anything in the world. And I say so for two reasons. Firstly, I find it always a very learning experience meeting students. It rekindles in us certain fires, it reignites certain embers which are dying out. When I see the anxious curiosity in your faces, as you set about learning the law, it reminds me once again that whatever be our age, whatever be our stage, we are always students. You may be in Delhi University, you may be in University of London, and after all these universities, you study all along in the University of Life. The day you stop being a student, that's the day you stop growing. That's the day you start growing old. The second reason why I would never miss this opportunity is I am so happy to see your generation embrace decolonization. Wisdom is not the preserve of the West. Some of the finest ideas which echoed in the West in the 17th, 18th century after they had finished killing each other in crusades and other battles were the ideas which resonated in ancient India, in our scriptures, in the writings of our rishis and munis, who were thinkers. As my late Guru, Mr. Palkhewala, used to always say, it is not enough to have knowledge, it is not enough to have intelligence, it's not enough to know. Ultimately, what you need is buddhi. And that is what we are proudly embracing today. Our Indian heritage is no longer a burden. My generation and the generation before me, sometimes, I'm sorry to say, carried this the same way a donkey carries gold on its back. It doesn't know, it thinks it's a weight, but it carries it anyway. Thank God we did, because today I see you open that package, take that gold and enrich yourselves with it. I would also never have liked to miss the opportunity of sharing with my young friends a celebration of 75 years of the Indian Constitution. 75 years ago, 2 generations above my generation gave to ourselves not just a constitution. We gave to ourselves a republic. As the famous philosopher Samu said, what is freedom? Freedom is nothing but a chance to be better. So when we sit down and celebrate, or stand up and celebrate, with joy, with sorrow, with a degree of satisfaction, but with a sense of some jobs not yet done, how much have we utilized this chance to be better? I'm here, and when I meet young friends, I always say, I'm here to account for what my generation has done. We owe it to you. And I always start by saying, do not hear me to listen to what I'm saying. You must, in your minds, challenge everything I say. As Socrates always said, what is education? It is kindling of a flame, not filling of a vessel. So it is in that spirit that I come to you today to share what we have done. At our 75th anniversary, it is time to do what we call, in accounting language, stock taking. Our successes, our shortcomings. We have had great successes. We have built institutions which have survived the ravages of time. 75 years is not a short period. We have seen countries around us embrace democracy and then go back to some form of autocracy, be it military rule, be it disguised autocracy, or be it just chaos. India is a democratic island. If you look around us, you will realize how important that has been. So yes, we have stood the ravages of time. Our parliament stands tall, our executive stands tall, our judiciary stands tall. But more than that, there are other institutions which we forget. We forget our schools, we forget our colleges, we forget our universities. If India today moves ahead, it is because India has managed to educate itself. Our press, despite all its shortcomings, despite its failures, despite its sensationalism for which it is rightly criticized, our press has stood up whenever it has needed to stand up. Our democracy has evolved. When it started, we had a patron state, patronizing its citizens. Today, public consciousness has truly converted it into a welfare state, where the people demand answers and do not accept what the government gives with gratitude, but receive it as partners share of profit in a partnership firm. We have evolved from an opaque state to a transparent state. I remember when I was young, the question, and when as a young lawyer, asking for a government file was like asking for the royal treasure. Today, your generation takes the right to information for granted. I think that's a strong positive which we have achieved in the 7.5 decades of our democracy. Democracy is always work in progress. And there are features of a democratic constitutional structure. On those, we must test where we stand today. What are these features? Sovereignty, rule of law, free and fair elections, fundamental rights, creations of institutions of democracy, separation of powers, supremacy of the Constitution, transparency, accountability, protection of human rights. It's not possible in one lecture to run through a critical analysis of each of this, as much as it is not possible to see the Himalayas in a flash of lightning. So I will pick some subjects with I am a little more familiar because of my area of work. Sovereignty has two dimensions, internal and external, and I think we have done well on that score. Yes, there have been challenges, and we have faced up to them. Rule of law. Rule of law is the soul of a democratic republic. But rule of law has to be seen in the macro and in the micro. In the micro, there will always be instances where rule of law has floundered. But however, what does the big picture look like? The big picture, at the end of 7.5 decades, despite its moments where it looked like it is headed in the wrong direction, is a wonderful display of how we started with a colonial past, but have evolved into our own jurisprudence. As I always say, I always love borrowing the words of Professor Bakshi. We had a Supreme Court for India. In the 70s, judges like Justice Krishna Iyer made it the Supreme Court for Indians. Today, Indian jurisprudence is admired by the world. And yes, its great strength is that it is constantly changing, constantly evolving. Jurisprudence should always be a servant, never a master. It should not govern your destiny, it should serve you well. And why do I feel that rule of law, after 7.5 decades, I feel rule of law will always remain in India? Not because what people in my profession, and especially those who go up and sit in judges' chairs, like to say, that the courts are the savior of the rule of law. No, they are not. The ultimate savior of the rule of law is Indian sovereignty. And what is Indian sovereignty? All of you, each one of us. Till we have rule of law in our heart, the rule of law will remain alive in India. It's not a political statement, but it's recounting history. And if you forget history, it tends to repeat itself. The only time when rule of law in India was seriously threatened was in 1975 when the emergency was declared. The phony emergency of 1975. And who saved the rule of law? Not the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court capitulated. A judgment, Shivkant Shukla, any practitioner in Supreme Court will tell you, when you cite it, the judges at least feel embarrassed, but mostly say, please put it away. Because they want nobody who's a part of that institution, I am a part of that institution, wants to be reminded of that dark chapter in the history of the Supreme Court. But who saved rule of law? Till rule of law lives in the heart of Indians, it is safe. And that is my greatest sense of satisfaction. What the father of this nation did, his life was not given in vain. He has lit in each one of us a fire which will not go out. The fire to protect freedom, the fire to protect the rule of law. And I share this with your generation so that you have to carry on this glorious tradition. What you always also need to remember is rule of law should never be allowed to be hostage to transitory events. There are times where you feel you can put rule of law to one side and achieve something great. Never forget, as a great English judge once said, you decide a case on the facts of a case and a crack develops in the body of the law. As Churchill always used to say, the mood of the people may be fickle, but the law must stand firm. So that's one chapter which we have done well on, but again, it's a fire which must burn in your generation. And on the 150th celebration of the Indian Constitution, make sure you pass it on to the generation that follows. Free and fair elections, the most important attribute of sovereignty. What is sovereignty? Sovereignty, the ultimate power lies with the people. Aristotle said the truest form of government is one in which the supreme power is vested in the people. It's only that the power is exercised by you through your elected representatives. look at the macro. Forget the micro, look at the macro. India has had 15 prime ministers in 75 years. So the average life of a prime minister is 5 years, if you look at the macro picture. Of course, we have had prime ministers who had longer terms, prime ministers who have shorter terms, but if you look at the picture of democracy, it's a very good sign, because the institution refreshes itself. And as my late friend Arun Jaitley used to always say, he was, I think, alumni of the Shri Ram College. He used to always say, we politicians now realize, and for Campus Law Center, he used to always say, you know, Harish, you people are so comfortable, you don't realize we chaps live in a room with a revolving door, in today, out tomorrow. And that, I think, is a great strength of Indian democracy. What is the greatest strength we see around us? India is the only country which has changed again and again the government with the ballot, not the bullet. That's a great success of Indian democracy. That's a great success of the story of the Indian Constitution. Fundamental rights. How have we done in fundamental rights? We have done very well. Mr. B.N. Rao, the late B.N. Rao, who assisted Dr. Ambedkar in putting together the Constitution, wanted to know, should we put due process in the Constitution? He went and met Frankfurter, who said it's an unruly horse. Don't have it in our Constitution. So he changed procedure. He changed the due process of law with procedure established by law. It took us only 20 years to trash that formula. And we got the unruly horse in. And I think we've ridden it quite well. That has been one of the big positive jurisprudential developments. The egregious acceptance, complete domination of the principle of non-arbitrariness pervading across all branches of jurisprudence. And not just in India, the world is embracing it now. Whether it be in the world of contract, or whether it be in the world of constitutional rights, whether it be in the world of arbitrariness, there is no space for whim, there is no space for hubris, there is no space for arbitrariness. Right to life has been expanded by the Krishna Iyer generation of architects of constitutional philosophy to encompass the right to education, the right to health. And in recent times, we have recognized the right to dignity, and from right to dignity comes the right to privacy. We have marched ahead in developing our fundamental rights. There's one thing which we have done which was unnecessary. Incorporate fundamental duties. All that needed was education. What did we need to educate? Fundamental rights are also fundamental duties. Your right to dignity is my duty to honor your dignity. Your right to privacy is my duty to honor your privacy. Your right to education is my duty to make sure if I have the means to educate you. Your duty to clean air is my duty to make sure I don't pollute the air. Those are our fundamental duties. What are fundamental rights? But shared fundamental duties which makes life better for each one of us. And the day you embrace fundamental rights as two sides of the coin, your right as well as your corresponding duty, we don't need the chapter on fundamental duties. In its practice, and I say this always, as law students you will understand this more than maybe the non-lawyers, we need a Civil Rights Act. There was a seminar, I was a young lawyer, I attended, I think Hugo Black had come from America. And we had some Indian lawyers who gave speeches about how our Supreme Court has started expanding the notions of fundamental rights. And he just laughed and he says, what I need to see is the Civil Rights Act. The enforcement of fundamental rights shouldn't be the privilege of the Supreme Court and those who can reach it. You should have a Civil Rights Act which can be enforced in a magistrate's court. You should have a Civil Rights Act against which if a policeman wrongly arrests you, he is penalized, he is fined, and you're compensated. You must have a Civil Rights Act under which if a college wrongly denies you admission, you get compensation. You must have a Civil Rights Act if there is a failing by the government hospital. You must have a Civil Rights Act if your privacy is invaded. Not a metaphysical, philosophical principle by which you have to go to judicial review and ultimately end up in the Supreme Court who wants to do everything. And that's one thing which we miss. And that's one thing which we must make sure we give to ourselves. A easy to understand Civil Rights Act, easy to enforce Civil Rights Act. Institution of democracy. We have done well on that front. We have voted our parliaments in. Yes, there is a concern generally in India and all over the world about the quality of debates in Parliament, about the quality of representation in Parliament. But we must always remember what the famous French diplomat and thinker Joseph Maistre said in 1811 in a letter which he wrote to his brother when he was ambassador of Sardinia. Every nation gets the government it deserves. So, if we do something wrong, we pay the price. George Orwell always said, people that elect corrupt politicians, impostors and thieves are traitors, not victims. So if we are not happy with what we see, look in the mirror. Don't blame anybody else. We must all exercise our mandate, and we must exercise it for the right reason. Our vote ultimately must go to the right person, and the right person will come forward if he knows he will get your vote. It is an interactive process. Always remember, there will be attempts to waylay you, to seduce you to doing the wrong things. That's one temptation you have to learn to resist. The executive. That's one area where we need a lot of work to do. There are three sources or three paradigms of executive power. One is the traditional authority, customs and heritage, like monarchy. Then you have another paradigm of the charismatic authority. Prophets, revolutionaries, ayatollahs. And then you have the legal rational authority based on rules of law, modern states. Max Weber, the German thinker, he used to write on public administration. And he wrote, bureaucracy is the most efficient and rational form of organization characterized by hierarchy, specialization, and rules. But he warned that excessive bureaucracy can create an iron cage of control. That is what we have to resist. And never forget, independence is not a virtue only of the judiciary. You need an independent bureaucracy. We have had great civil servants. I don't take names lest it gets politicized. One civil servant was called by the son of a prime minister, and all he said in reply to a request made was, "Sir, you do not have authority to use the private exchange racks," and he put the phone down. That's the kind of character, that's the kind of spirit, that's the kind of independence, fierce independence, which we need in our civil service. And then we have the judiciary. Independence of the judiciary. We've done well on that front. But then we have to remind ourselves independence is of two kinds: structural independence and intellectual independence. Structural independence is the easy bit. We have security of tenure. We have status of, as we call, status of irremovability. But independence is not, as they say, get out of jail free card. Independence is not a barrier to accountability. I read a very interesting article which was borrowed from an American journal by one of the English law journals, which said, "The rule of law is the proud boast of many societies, but the hard-earned achievement of far fewer. In part, this is so because the sine qua non of the rule of law is an independent judiciary, a delicate institution both difficult to establish and no less difficult to sustain. Our history tells us that judicial independence must first be constitutionally conferred and guaranteed, but then, importantly, it must be earned and periodically redeemed by the judiciary through its actions." You must always, and I share this with young friends, you must always challenge the work of our courts. Critically appraise the work of courts. Always, yes, of course, fear not the law of contempt. And as long as you focus on the work and not the judge, there can be no contempt. Criticizing the work done by the court is not criticizing a person, it's not criticizing the institution, but it is criticizing what it is doing. You have a right to judge them because they have a duty, as Ellis said, to be redeemed through their actions, to justify to you the faith the Constitution has placed in them. One area which is my favorite, to borrow a phrase, my pet peeve, is the method of appointment of judges. In 1991, we fought against complete executive domination when, in the era of initial coalition politics, some very strange things happened in the kind of judges who were appointed. Before that, some of the finest Indian judges came from a system in which the executive had, in theory, complete freedom to appoint judges. Who appointed Krishna Iyer? Who appointed Bhagwati? Who appointed Gajendra Gadkar? Who appointed Hidayatullah? Who appointed all these greats? Who appointed Chinnappa Reddy? Who appointed D.A. Desai? Fiercely independent judges. Who appointed them? The government of the day. But then things started going wrong. We fixed it. And I was part of the legal system which fought for taking away this power from the executive. But it was a band-aid. It wasn't a solution. And in hindsight, I think it's about time we correct the folly we made. You must all have heard of Chronicles of Narnia, the famous book. The author Lewis, he had written a very interesting book which I read a while ago. And I remember a quotation which I managed to source. The book is called Mere Christianity, to the challenge to certain Christian beliefs. But he said something very interesting which I think applies to this. It said, we all want progress, but progress means getting nearer to the place you want to be. If you have taken a wrong turn, then going forward does not get you any nearer. If you're on the wrong road, progress means doing an about turn and walking back to the right road. In that case, the man who turns back soonest is the most progressive man. So we must always remember, we have to correct this folly. Look at United Kingdom. It doesn't even have a written constitution. They enacted the 2005 Reforms Act, the UK Reforms Act, under which they created a Supreme Court, moved it away from House of Lords. Originally, the English Parliament was without separation of powers. It was the last word lay with, as they said, the Judicial Committee of the House of Lords, or the Privy Council who advised the Queen. They realized this doesn't work in the 21st century, so they had the Reform Act, and now they have created the UK Reforms Act. And there are very interesting provisions which, if you must read, how there is a constitutional duty on the Lord Chancellor, who is the Law Minister, to ensure the independence of the judiciary, to secure the independence of the judiciary, including a constitutional duty to make available sufficient means for the functioning of the judiciary. But it has an elaborate procedure for selection of judges. Elaborate procedure for selection of judges. There is a commission, and that commission selects a panel, and there are multiple panels. And I'm always challenged as to, well, if you have this, who's going to select the Judicial Appointments Commission? And my answer is, if as 1.4 billion Indians, we can't find 7 honest people to appoint judges, shame on us in calling us a democracy. We can always find 7 honest people. Why can't the 4 or 5 big functionaries, the speakers of parliament, the Chief Justice of India, the Prime Minister of India, members of the opposition, senior members of the opposition, constitute a panel who will select a panel? Can't we find 7 independent Indians out of 1.4 billion and leave it to them to select judges on merit? And then it must be a transparent process. How is it a transparent process? Not by saying you must publish what you discuss in that little collegium of yours and destroy reputations, your own and those of those whom you select and don't select. But in UK, for example, it's by invitation. So whenever there is a vacancy, you advertise, you receive. What you've received is in public domain. How you select is not. Because that then becomes a criticism of why you have not chosen one over the other. This is one of the biggest challenges to our judiciary. The second challenge is judicial overreach. Justice Scalia, conservative in his mind, I had the privilege of meeting him. I was very fond of him. And once we were on a session where it was a question of should we use foreign judgments. And when my turn came to speak, I said, I'm very fond of citing Justice Scalia, where I was always fond of arguing limits to affirmative action. But I said, the Indian judges tell me, why are you citing Scalia? Because he always feels you shouldn't cite foreign judgments. Scalia was a great thinker. He was conservative, but a great thinker. He coined a phrase called judicial oligarchy. And he says a system of government in which the judiciary becomes sovereign and supreme over the other 2 branches, then is no longer a democracy. It's a judicial oligarchy. Are we seeing that today? Maybe not. But the way we are going, will we see it tomorrow? Maybe. If we don't stop and go back to the right road, we are not making progress. We will regress. Assertion of independence is good. Expanding locus standi was good. What worries me is we are now drifting into uncharted waters. The new understanding of Article 142 as a power to do whatever you think is right. You can't do justice by the seat of your pants, as they say. Justice Krishna used to always say, the judiciary has a duty to act when other branches fail, but it must do so within the mandate, its constitutional mandate. We are seeing a drift away from that. It's time we once again anchored that ship. One of the former Chief Justices came for a function in London, and he spoke of something. Professor Jowl is a dear friend. You must have all heard of him. He's the one who's revised D. Smith's administrative action. And his jaw fell when he heard of what he was told was the Supreme Court's conversational jurisdiction. And he asked, what does that mean? And he said, we issue notice, we call the government, and we ask them questions and give them suggestions. And he whispered to me, Harish, is that the job of a court? Justice Anand, former Chief Justice Anand, Dr. Anand, used to always, in open court, say, our job is to give the nudge. Former Chief Justice Kirpal used to say, we are like the alarm clock, we wake up. Judicial nudges are good. Don't let it become a judicial sledgehammer, where you start crafting policies on the anvil of judicial power. And one thing which worries me is this control over the elected executive under the veil of accountability. Entertaining ill-conceived public interest litigations against people in public life, devastating their careers. That is not what the Supreme Court was meant for. The Supreme Court was not meant to do a magistrate's job to oversee investigations. And finally, disrespecting co-equal institutions. We must always remember that Parliament is a co-equal institution. The Election Commission is a co-equal institution. In recent times, I was distressed to see the way the Supreme Court summons the Election Commission and talks rudely to its officers. It's a co-equal institution. Of course, you have the power of judicial review if you find something wrong. Don't disrespect them. And what happens when you have called them to account on the basis of a false set of facts presented to you? You let the person who has disrespected a co-equal institution say, oh, naughty boy, go away from here, don't do it again. Would you have taken the same soft approach if somebody had done the same to you as an institution? High office and double standards don't go together. Transparency. Transparency has been a great evolution. We now have to caution ourselves against an overkill. What we need to aspire is more openness, not just more transparency. Professor Bugaric's article was cited in a case which I was seeing on challenge to subordinate legislation. And he had something very interesting to say. He said, the principle of openness is broader than the principle of transparency. Transparency refers only to accessibility of information and other public administration services. But the principle of openness covers forms of active cooperation and communication between the administration and public. A democracy is a partnership. Openness is sharing power with the true sovereign, the people of India. Open decision-making, open discussion. As Mr. Palkhiwala used to always say, why should the budget be shrouded in secrecy? Nobody is saying declare in advance the tax rates you're going to have because that may cause speculation in the market. But if you are going to make big principle changes, those should be brought out, discussed in public, shared with the public, opinions invited, and then a considered decision taken. Don't announce budgets under the shroud of secrecy. It has changed somewhat, but we have a long distance to go. And the second thing we have to realize is never confuse transparency with public curiosity. Public curiosity is not a euphemism for public interest. In the working of a government, in the working of a judiciary, there is always to be a balance between transparency and secrecy, where disclosure of information interferes with other competing interests, including policy making, demanding disclosures, exposing secrets which impinge on policy making, gratifies not public interest, it gratifies public curiosity. We have challenges which lie ahead. We need reforms. We need reforms in judicial appointments. We need reforms. We should restore the independence of the civil service. And we need some form of reforms which would control judicial overreach, which is a subject which we all deal with. But the greatest challenge of them all is dealing with the new oil, or the new gold, as you choose to call it, information. There is a very interesting book. For some reason, I've been reading a little about Nazism and Hitler, and to see what went wrong in a great country like Germany to give birth to something which then had such terrible consequences. And I read a very interesting account by a German author called Hannah Arendt, who's written a book called Origins of Totalitarianism. She wrote this book in the early 20th century when she fled from Nazi Germany. And there's something which I had written down. I have a habit of copying things from my Kindle. And there's something interesting which she had written. She said, the ideal subject of totalitarian rule is not the convinced Nazi or the convinced communist, but people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction no longer exists. Fake news can be more dangerous than you realize. Tyrants are created on fake news and false narratives, not out of any dogmas and philosophies. I'm not here to proselytize, nor here to condemn what we have done. I'm here to celebrate 7.5 decades of the working of this great democracy. All in all, we have done very well. I'm not here to douse your enthusiasm or your hope, but to kindle and spark in you, to kindle that spark to keep your fire of democracy burning. Kofi Annan used to say, young people should always be in the forefront of global change and innovation. Always empower them. Our generation owes it to empower you, to share with you our experiences, to confess to our failings, and to tell you where we went wrong so that you don't commit the same mistakes we did. And as fellow students of law, I would share with you some things which I think have stood me in good stead. Always remember, first of all, always remember you're a student of law, however old you may be. Do not ever accept finality. Challenge every thought. Every thought, as they say, beliefs of yesterday are doubts of today and dogmas of tomorrow. You must challenge every thought. You are taught how to think. Always challenge thoughts. The third is, and this is something I want to share with you, embrace globalization. You will be surprised how Indians are respected today all over the world. There is a vested interest which wants to scare you that your future and jobs will be destroyed by globalization. The truth is exactly the other way around. Globalization will open for you opportunities not just of conquering India, but of conquering the world. I have faith in India. I have faith in Indians. I have faith in your minds. I have the privilege of working in so many jurisdictions. And I dare say, and yes, of course, I'm biased in favor of India, but I say India has amongst the finest minds. In addition, and it's a matter of social history, it's a discussion for another day. People who come from developed, successful countries have lost the appetite for growth. The fire in their belly has gone out. Indians are hungry to grow. My generation was hungry, and what I see in your generation is admirable. Your hunger to grow, your willingness to take a fight. You are far more feisty than my generation ever was. Embrace globalization. Don't follow Don't fall for all this nonsense which you are told, that globalization is bad for you. Globalization is the best thing which will happen to you. Learn from them. I have learned so much working in England. There are strengths everywhere. Our ancient scriptures, I remember as a child reading, there was an Indian newspaper which used to have a caption every single day: let noble thoughts come to us from all over the universe. That's what our Upanishads have taught us. So embrace globalization. Take what is good, grow. The third is, it is your duty, the fourth thing, is your duty as lawyers, as those who understand the significance of rule of law, to caution society that the greatest peril to the rule of law lies not in tyranny but in apathy. The day the citizenry develops apathy, it creates a crisis. Europe today is going through a crisis because I have seen the generation, a successful, hardworking, post-World War II generation who built Europe into a powerhouse, gave way to a generation which was well-fed, well-nurtured, and without a fire in their belly. Europe has to reinvent itself. We in India are much ahead in the race. This is your moment. This is your day. And finally, something which my guru taught me, always remember, democracy is a ceaseless endeavor. It is not a safe harbor. I was so inspired by some of the verses which were cited that I managed to scribble something down. I'm not a poet and it won't rhyme, but I will share here what I just scribbled. As I stand here to account for our deeds done, of battles fought, of wars lost and won, I feel a sense of trepidation. How shall we be judged by you? I feel a sense of trepidation of sharing our joys and sorrows. How shall we judge by you, whose future we did borrow? Yet my spirit soars when I see in you the spark, for I see you deliver India to its place in the sun. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for a verdict of vision and a judgment of justice delivered through thought, not decree. Now we would like to open the floor for questions and answers. So the people who are interested in asking questions, you may raise your hand. Our volunteers will reach you. Adil,
Good afternoon, sir.
No, it's fine. I'll just.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is that, what are your thoughts on the proposed the 130th Constitutional Amendment Act that aimed at strengthening the accountability for public office holders who faces serious corruption charges? Would it be against the basic structure of the Constitution?
Unfortunately, when our Constitution was framed, if you read the Constituent Assembly debates, the founding fathers never thought that they would see the kind of spectacles we see, especially in some of our legislatures. So I think we owe it to ourselves to find some sort of deterrence in the Constitution to prevent the most valuable institution we have, our legislatures, from being contaminated.
Next, Adil, can you please hand over the mic to sir seated there?
Hello. Dr. Sangwan, sir, I have been a longest time student of University of Delhi in 21st century and very active and reactive and turned every brick upside down where there was something wrong. This is where I did a lot of things. My suggestion, 2-3 suggestions to Dr. Seema Singh. She taught me Constitution and Jurisprudence when she has freshly joined this law center. Madam, you have done a wonderful job and you have an extraordinary name to this forum, Kartvyam. But I have 1 or 2 suggestions because all this forum, they die when the person who created is somewhere else. You will become a vice chancellor tomorrow. You would be. So I strongly suggest.
Sir, excuse me.
Strongly suggest.
Can I just interrupt you in between? It would be better if we have questions at the moment because Seema is here with you. You can give the suggestions later on.
Madam,
we would like you to ask questions to Mr. Salve.
I have a question. I have a suggestion for the same forum. Please let me complete.
All right. So please be brief because others are also waiting.
Madam, I have used this time for my question. Yes. Madam ji, make possible that this forum survives and it works better than the Oxford Union Society. Ensure this. This is very important. And second very important point, that today is Mr. Salve is there. Tomorrow should be Prashant Bhushan. Then there should be Goswami. Then there should be another journalist who will speak against. And third most important person of this country is a farmer. There are very award holder farmers in this country. Sometime please invite some farmers as a speaker, so that they know how their children are studying in Delhi University and what they should be taught. And my question is now to Mr. Salve. What do you think? I feel strongly, I have a faith that the advocates can be the most important responsible citizen. And if they work properly, I'm not saying they are not doing. If they do seriously, overnight more than 90% of different type of corruption can be eradicated in the judiciary. What do you think, and how and what the advocates and the general public should do to get rid of this menace which is eating away all the vitals of the nation? Thank you very much.
Sir. Well, I'll only say, if somebody takes a bribe, it's because somebody is giving a bribe. If each one of us promise ourselves to be honest, that will be our biggest battle against corruption.
Next. Adi, right there, Aman.
Hi sir, my name is Aman Pratap Singh. I have 2 questions for you. First is, do you believe the Supreme Court's increasing use of PILs has expanded access to justice or diluted the separation of power? And my second question is, what is the biggest constitutional question India is yet to answer?
Sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
Do you believe the Supreme Court's increasing use of PILs has expanded access to justice or diluted the separation of power?
The answer is both. It has definitely improved access to justice, and that is what it was meant to be. We buried the doctrine of locus standi in enforcing fundamental rights. What we forgot is, it was done for those who do not have access to justice. Today, PILs are weaponized to enforce accountability on co-equal institutions. And that is where you get dangerously close to breaching boundaries. So that is what we have to be careful about. As far as the greatest constitutional challenge is concerned, no challenge is too great as long as the spirit of democracy lives in the heart of every Indian.
Next.
Respected sir, it is a true honor to stand in front of you today. My hands are literally shaking when I'm talking to you. I had this question for a long time in my head, and I think there's no better person than you to answer this. As we discussed dharma today, According to you, what's the real lawyer? Is it defending the client at all costs, or does it lie somewhere deeper in the pursuit of justice? Please enlighten us on this.
This is the difference between the true understanding of the role of a lawyer and the public perception that a lawyer should not stand for a dishonest client. Our system of justice is founded on a principle that each man is entitled to his day in court. Nobody is punished without a fair trial. And that requires the facts to be fairly placed before the court. It's a myth. It's a romanticized story that great lawyers win cases. You know, there's an old saying, out of 10 cases, lawyers win 1, lose 3, and the other 6 get themselves decided. So the decision of a case will ultimately depend on the decision of the facts of a case. But it is your duty to fairly present your client's case in court. Why? Because the faith of the people depends on a judiciary which has as its cornerstone a fair opportunity to everyone to have his day in court.
Now we'll take the last question. Yeah, here. Adil.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, representing India at the ICJ in the Jadhav case, which only took 1 rupees, which is commendable, must have been brought unique pressures. Would you share a key learning about handling national interest litigation under international law?
You are absolutely right. I've had the privilege of being associated with some of the big cases for the government of India, including sensitive things like minority rights, dissolution of governments, holding of elections, and so on and so forth. And I thought I had seen it all, and I had reached a stage where I would not be stressed by a case. And then comes along. I've done 2 cases in the ICJ for India. The first was stressful, I thought was stressful till I did the second one, which was Jadhav. When you, as a cricketer will tell you, when you're wearing your country's colors, there is a different kind of pressure which works on you. Add to it the kind of narrative which was being built for and against India in the Jadhav case, it became an even greater responsibility. There are certain battles which you have to fight to win. Jadhav was one of them. And I am so grateful to God that we prevailed, our hard work prevailed, and we managed to establish that India believes in the rule of law, India believes in international law, but India is willing to stand up and fight for its rights when its rights are infringed.
Thank you, sir.
One more question and then we will conclude.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody present here. Good afternoon to my respected.
If you take the mic a little closer, maybe.
Can you all hear me now?
Yeah.
Good afternoon to everybody present here today, to all of my respected professors and to Sir. Sir, I'm over the moon ever since I got to know that you will be coming here today. And you know, it's a dream come true for me because I'm seeing you for the first time in person. Because of this, I couldn't sleep the whole night yesterday. And as a small tribute to you, I, being an immature poetess, I've composed a small poem that I would like to read out to you. So may
Please, I'd be honored.
I
am known to cause nightmares, so that you didn't sleep last night and not go.
Sir, not at all. One of the most memorable nights. And I will always remember this day throughout my life. The beacon of justice. Can you all hear me? In the courtrooms vast and wide, where justice meets both truth and tide, there stands a Duane, perspicacious and wise, with a voice that echoes and never lies. He's truly unparalleled, one of a kind. With eloquence, he weaves the law, untangling labyrinthine webs with astute precision without a flaw. A mind that's keen, a heart that's bold. In battles fought, both abstruse and age-old. From Vodafone's stats to Tata's fight, he champions justice with all his might. In its pardonable in arbitration's vast global sphere, his discerning arguments make the obscure clear. As a solicitor, his voice was loud, above the din, above the crowd. He spoke for India with unwavering grace, guiding the ship through the Enrita Let's See case. In Jadhav's plight, oh so dire, his voice rang out with fierce fire. Against all odds, he fought the fight for justice's cause, for India's right. A Padma Bhushan, his well-earned crown, a beaten bride, a treasure trove in India's town. But titles, awards, they all pale, for it's the law that tells his magnificent tale. Also a chartered accountant, sharp and bright, he brought his learning to India's light. And now with every word he speaks, the law bends to his genius, it soars and peaks. He stands not for fortune or acclaim, but for the truth that ignites the flame. In every case with piercing gaze, he shapes the law through his endless hard work of arduous days. A true champion of justice, noble and wise, his legacy gleams where truth never dies. May thy name be etched in eternity's rhyme, like roses that bloom transcending time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Can I make one more request to you? Could I have that paper, please?
Definitely, sir. I've got this for you.
For two reasons. I will always treasure it, and also I can show it to my wife and make her proud for a change. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, now so I request our program director to please deliver the vote of thanks. No, actually, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
नहीं सर पूछने तो देंगे सर लेकिन टाइम अलाउ नहीं करेगा.
So just one last question. You mentioned the evolution of the dark horse of due process in your speech right now. Can you kindly elaborate on that, please?
So, due process of law is a phrase which defies a confined definition. What is due process of law? And some judges criticized it, saying this means what the judge thinks is right is correct. It has that potential. So when we wrote our constitution said no person shall be deprived of his life or liberty without the procedure established by law. And in the very first case, when the communist leaders were arrested, the Supreme Court held procedure established by law means what it says. So if there is a statute under which you are arrested, that's good enough. Maneka Gandhi turned the tide when it said that procedure must be just, fair and reasonable. So you got in what is called processual due process. Now Supreme Court has said whatever is arbitrary, whatever lacks reason, is violative of Article 14. Well, what else is that but due process? Of course, there runs the danger of one man's wise is another man's arbitrary. So you have to, it's a weapon to be used carefully, but yes, we have due process now.
Thank you. So ma'am, please come.
Okay, go ahead.
Considering that ensuring justice for every citizen is a key Kartvyam of judiciary, what steps do you feel can be taken to make Indian judiciary system more accessible and understandable for the common people?
Well, that's a topic for a 1 hour lecture, if not more. But yes, there is a lot we can do. The process of appointments, and that's one side of the picture. The other side is empowering the judiciary with more resources. I mean, as I always say, we need more roads, we need more bridges. But for God's sake, the rule of law will die if our justice delivery system continues the way it is. The West has 80 and 100 judges per million. India has 15. We need 150 judges per million, especially where our governments are the biggest litigants. And justice delayed is justice not just denied, justice buried deep. So if rule of law is to be a reality to an average Indian, it can't be where his case for a small piece of land takes 5 years or 7 years or 10 years. That is the biggest threat to the rule of law. And that is where we need most reform.
पूछ लीजिए
बच्चे को एटलीस्ट 66.6% अटेंडेंस देना है। मैं आपसे प्रार्थना करना चाहूँगा कोई ऐसा नियम बताओ कि ये प्रॉपर्ली इम्प्लीमेंट हो, क्योंकि मैं समझता हूँ अगर सबसे ज़्यादा हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी में अगर प्रॉब्लम है तो केवल इस ऑर्डिनेंस में है। और इससे मैं इतना भुगत रहा हूँ कि जितनी गालियाँ मेरे को पड़ सकती हैं, मेरे को टीचरों ने भी गालियाँ दी और बच्चों ने से कुछ पूछा ही नहीं। तो मैं चाहता हूँ कि इसको हम कैसे इम्प्लीमेंट करें। थैंक यू।
I think the administration of the college is in safe hands. I have zero experience and I would not like to go.
नहीं अब नहीं. Then it will be a never ending process. Sir, should I take one? Please. Okay. हाँ सुनाई दे रहा, आप बोलो. माइक दे दो आप.
Good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. Sailesh Kumar, batch 2528, Faculty of Law, University of Delhi. My question is, can artificial intelligence ever replace human wisdom, empathy, constitutional morality in delivering justice or judgments?
I do not claim to have any expertise in artificial intelligence. It's as a tool of harnessing information, it is useful. But my little knowledge, my little experiments with artificial intelligence tells me, whatever you get there, you must always stress test it. And there can never, what it can never do is have vision. What you need to guide a democracy is vision, is a passion, it's an emotion. Freedom is not just a metaphysical idea, it's an emotion in everybody's heart. And that is something I don't think artificial intelligence can ever replicate.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, you can see the enthusiasm, and I think we can continue this program till evening. But now, because we are getting late, so we will have to conclude the session. And I'm extremely thankful to you, sir. And I have seen that in around 1 hour 15 minutes, how you covered almost the entire part of each and every part of the Constitution, and some very focused area which are really very, very important, and serious discussion and deliberation is required on these points, and that is independence of judiciary and judicial overreach. And one very important point which you have mentioned, that the double standard, how the public institution should be respected by the judiciary itself. And एक जो मुझे बड़ा लग रहा है कि हम सब कुछ सोचने के लिए जो बड़ा इम्पोर्टेंट सर ने एक पॉइंट दिया कि right to information is available to us to inquire about the government, that what government is doing. Judiciary can also ask questions from the government, that what government is doing. But simultaneously, the meaning of Kartvyam is, if we want to ask questions from others about their duties, we must also be aware, we must awaken ourselves, कि are we able to answer the questions of others which they are asking to us. तो दूसरों से प्रश्न पूछने के साथ ही साथ हमारा भी ये कर्तव्य है कि हम अपने एक्शंस में, अपनी ड्यूटीज़ में इतने परफेक्ट हों कि यदि हमसे कोई सवाल पूछे तो हमारे पास भी उसका जवाब होना चाहिए. एंड आई थिंक दैट इज़ द मंत्र ऑफ द सक्सेसफुल डेमोक्रेसी. एंड देन ओनली ईच एंड एवरी वर्ड ऑफ द प्रीएम्बल ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फ्रॉम सॉवरेनिटी टू फ्रेटर्निटी इज गोइंग टू बी सक्सेसफुली इम्प्लीमेंटेड in its words and spirit both. So without taking too much of time, sir, आपका हृदय से बहुत 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 आभार. There was a lots of enthusiasm, and I am extremely grateful on the behalf of the entire audience and faculty of law that you gave so much of your valuable times to us, and we got an opportunity कि हम सामने आपसे प्रश्न भी पूछा लोगों ने और हमें आपको सुनने का भी अवसर मिला. I am equally thankful to Simrat Kaur Madam, Principal SRCC. I am Principal SRCC, the entire team of SRCC, without whom support this was not possible. The team from DUCC, my special thanks to Jatin ji, जिन्होंने कल हमारे लिए आनंद फानन में इतना कम समय में पूरा का पूरा ये अरेंजमेंट किया. और यहाँ पे जितने भी विद्यार्थी बैठे हैं, शांतनु, पवन एंड द एंटायर टीम ऑफ DDS, प्रोफेसर अलका चावला मैडम, प्रोफेसर गुंजन गुप्ता मैम, जिनके बिना ये संभव नहीं था. और यहाँ पे बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग बैठे हुए हैं, हर्षवर्धन बैठे हुए हैं, यशराज हैं, अपूर्वा हैं, नॉलेज कलेक्टिव की पूरी टीम, सचिन, लवीश, ये सारे लोगों के बिना ये संभव नहीं था. तो आप सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद अपना समय देने के लिए, यहाँ से इस कार्यक्रम को सक्सेसफुल बनाने के लिए. लेकिन मेरी आप लोगों से एक अपेक्षा भी है कि यहाँ से आप एक प्रण भी लेकर के उठेंगे. द सर हैज़ रेज्ड वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन. और अब ये जो बैटन नेक्स्ट जनरेशन को पास ऑन हो रही है, you should come with inclusivity, you should come up with more responsibility, and you should be completely devoted towards your duty and towards the nation. जैसे सर ने बोला कि India has capacity कि हम outshine कर सकते हैं because this century belongs to us. तो इसी के साथ एक बार फिर से आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. सर एक बार फिर से आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. और बहुत जल्दी हम मिलेंगे कर्तव्यम के 20वें लेक्चर में, जिसके बारे में आई विल इन्फॉर्म यू. थैंक यू सो मच. थैंक यू.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. You have done the duty of being a wonderful and wise audience, and your next duty is to carry the ideas discussed here and ponder over. Now I would like to request you all to please kindly stand up for our national anthem. Yes, yes, sir. Jane gane mane adinayak jayate Bharat bhagya vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravid Uttal Banga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga Uchchal Jalati Taranga Sab Shubh Naame Thank you, everyone. Kindly be seated. Our guests will leave first. I request everyone, kindly please be seated and leave the space for our guests. Cordon off.
you.